beituna pues más uno chanzik bastone letiele jejelas almahtano vale behlay u almahtani letiel jóvenes beituna pues behlay makamak letiel u almahtan wow derechos le jóvenes op bigchen shikintesha ti letiel junsutukila kae siktun beyo tenok besahila.
Là, upețonot, ucavai, coșupce, le tiu mas hatsoțin, oie, mina nu hebei.
Mexico's Yucatan is a beautiful place with many natural wonders, including refreshing cenotes, jungles teeming with birds, and white sand beaches. Yet, the Maya people who have lived there for millennia have faced centuries of oppression, exploitation, discrimination, malnutrition, and economic deprivation. While Cancun and the Maya Riviera tourist strip offers jobs to Maya from the interior, it separates workers from their families with a profound social cost. The new Tren Maya could bring a tsunami of social change. The luxury passenger train line starts in Cancun and loops through the Maya heartland.
Pues el gobierno en esta parte respeta lo que es la cultura maya, sus tradiciones, culturas, creencias, sus espacios y sobre todo pues para preservar su comunidad integral y no se pierda esa idiosincrasia, ¿no? del pueblo. Está aperturando lo que es la cultura maya para que mucha gente conozca su cultura, conozca sus artesanías.
It's unclear whether the Maya will benefit greatly from the Tren Maya and economic growth, or their culture will be inundated and they will be relegated to low-wage jobs. Plus, construction could harm their environment.
Estos cambios que vienen por el Tren Maya y otros que hay, es una oportunidad para el pueblo maya que ha estado esperando. El papel de nosotros es consolidar nuestra identidad para poder enfrentar este nuevo cambio que viene, para que la cultura sea más fuerte y podamos mostrar al mundo quiénes somos los mayas.
There are opportunities and risks from the construction of the Maya train. On the positive side, it will generate jobs and income opportunities for the Maya people who are already working as welders, as construction workers. At the same time, these are the type of jobs that they will get in entry-level positions. The opportunities will be there if there is an effort to empower and build capacities in the Maya people. It is important to recognize indigenous people because they are equal members of society. And for many years, they have suffered from historic discrimination, historic racism that have hindered their economic opportunities and their well-being. And also they should be compensated because their resources are a selling point for the tourism industry. And what are they getting in return? a few jobs, entry-level jobs, a few economic opportunities. It's not fair. It's a matter of equality.
When an asteroid measuring 6 miles across slammed into Earth 66 million years ago, ground zero was the Yucatan Peninsula, a place called Chicxulub. The asteroid wiped out most of life on the planet. The asteroid left behind a geological crust in the Yucatan that is a jumble of limestone rocks, not great for agriculture, but useful for building pyramids and railroad infrastructure. The Maya civilization emerged in what is now southern Mexico and Central America, and produced vast cities and monumental temples before collapsing in the 9th century. The ancient Mayas left behind thousands of crumbling ruins, ranging from small monuments on the outskirts of today's villages to the magnificent sites of Chichen Itza and Tulum. Spanish conquistadors slaughtered and subjugated the Mayas. After Mexican independence, the boom industry was making rope from the fibers of the henequen plant. It was called green gold. To harvest and process henequen, landowners made serfs of the Mayas and, after a peasant uprising, defeated them in a long, grinding war. The Mexican Revolution in the early 20th century brought some relief. Plantation land was redistributed to peasants, and workers' rights were established in a new constitution. Modern times have not been kind to the Mayas. All industries died, and economic pressures and globalization siphoned people from the villages. Still, Mayas in the Yucatan have been more resilient and cohesive than many other indigenous groups elsewhere. Now their culture faces new pressures from increased tourism and real estate development.
Tiempos difíciles, fuertes, tormentos que sufrieron en ese momento, ¿no? Que venimos de los mayas, ¿no? Y hay una frase que siempre he escuchado: antes éramos inteligentes, llegaron los españoles y nos apendejaron. Hoy en la actualidad es diferente, hemos estado tratando de sobresalir con nuestras tradiciones, nuestras costumbres, es lo que nos mantiene vivos hoy en día nosotros, nuestra identidad cultural.
La cultura maya tiene muchas particularidades y rasgos psicológicos que permiten que tengan una resiliencia importante. Desde pequeños están integrados a una red comunitaria y social donde adquieren los niños muchas habilidades para poder desarrollarse de manera plena.
Maya cultural traditions in the Yucatan run deep.
Los elementos más importantes de la cultura maya es el idioma, la lengua, sus tradiciones y su cosmovisión. Ese es el papel de nosotros los maestros, fomentar la identidad de los niños, que lo tengan bien cimentado para que aprendan a vivir en este mundo global e intercultural. o los individuos que somos los que hacemos la cultura maya nos adaptamos y seguimos conservando nuestra cultura.
Jesus Pachable, who goes by the stage name of Patboy, is a Mexican rapper of Maya heritage, who often sings in the Mayan language. One of his songs was featured on the soundtrack of the movie Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
We wanted to celebrate the collection with an artist who centers his practice in the richness of Maya language. It is an absolute honor to introduce to you Patboy, Jesus Cristobal Pat Shabbat.
Miren como, bueno, estamos hablando, mira, ya entró, así que, adelante, ¿qué tal?
Malo.
¿Qué tal, Esteban Esteves, la compañera Yogi?
Sí, la invitación es aquí por la emisión del Museo de Metropolitan, 2 de abril a las 11 de la mañana. Se ubica
la 82
y la Quinta Avenida.
Sí, así es.
Aquí están cordialmente invitados toda la gente también, y algunas presentaciones en las escuelas y entrevistas en radio, y más que nada también aquí en este espacio. Kukado vitene basten kimetik bobochich mayakai. Basten men ichmaya quintam, la osatune kimetik inkayo ichmaya sham. Mendeste ka siguiente tu kabinino stale quintanik maya. Pues bobochich mayakaya ya kachbaku yesik tikahtalol ya kachbaku yuchul tinkaja le bashkimetik tu chanilka tu lakalbash la sotonachman utsin wi kuhum le pash kialal esten rapo hachman utsin wi shan bishin tsib diklekayo bishin bisik titulak le mehen kahobo yesalo yeke lak le mehen pala lo bian te kahob tu lak tan shelo milobo bish utang le mayat ano bish kushan way tu yokol kabe peyo tu no ma tanikcha ku kimil way tu ne laso tu ne king metik rap ichmaya tem u kima kun skin ball.
Patboy es un muchacho que ha llevado la cultura fuera de México, fuera de las comunidades mayas. Ha dado a conocer al mundo esta manifestación cultural desde sus tradiciones, de lo que vive en el pueblo. Con ese idioma nos presentamos como los mayas. Por eso es tan importante conservarla, preservarla y reforzarla.
Clothing is another mainstay of Maya culture. The typical Maya village garment for women is the ipil, a loose cotton tunic, long like a dress, that is typically embellished with elaborate embroidery.
La importancia del bordado en Yucatán pues es muy grande, porque tiene que ver con, digamos, su origen viene desde la época prehispánica. Además, digamos, ya en la actualidad es, a mi juicio, es el símbolo de identidad casi más importante para todas las clases sociales, que unifica de alguna manera a todas las clases sociales y a todas las regiones. Aunque todo mundo puede usar ipil, en la actualidad muchas ya no usan hipil. Lo que yo llamo la blusa hipil, que es, digamos, se ha convertido en blusa el hipil. Se ha cortado para poder usar con pantalones.
Art can be a powerful medium for spreading awareness about Maya cultural issues.
El arte a través de la pintura mural es muy importante porque fortalece la cuestión que tiene que ver con el patrimonio cultural de los mayas contemporáneos, porque permite a través de la vista trascender esas manifestaciones culturales. Historia de la Xtabay es la mujer seductora, es un patrimonio oral inmaterial de la región maya. En la época prehispánica fue considerada como la diosa de la horca. Actualmente es la mujer maya contemporánea que lucha por un cambio de reconocimiento de la mujer y que convive también en el contexto y es más conocido que se aparece junto al árbol sagrado de los mayas, que es el yaxche o la ceiba. Los evangelizadores lo ponen cerca del árbol sagrado porque lo presentan como un demonio. Sin embargo, la belleza ha sido el mayor atractivo de ella, y lejos de que los mayas se alejen de su árbol sagrado, ahora están buscando el árbol sagrado, el yaxche, para ver si se les aparece la Xtabay.
Numerous initiatives are underway aimed at strengthening Maya society and improving the health and well-being of the people.
So we are doing this project on health and nutrition in one of the villages. And basically what we are doing is empowering the children to be the agents of change in their communities and in their families by providing them with resources that they will adapt and that they will shape according to the way their lives are shaped by the community and by the school. It's a novel approach because it's a bottom-up approach. We don't come with any preconceived ideas about what the children should be doing or the parents. We ask what they do, we progress through different stages to find out the best solutions for the health issues that the children and the parents have identified that are the most important in the village. So the Maya in Yucatan have gone through a nutrition transition that moved them from their traditional foods to a globalized food system that relies a great deal on junk food, on beverages that are high caloric, with very low nutritional value. What we are doing, part of this project, is actually trying to create interest on the traditional foods again to counteract the effects of globalization on the choices of food that the families eat and consequently on the health of the children and on the health of the communities.
While many Maya have emigrated, many others have stayed home. There are hundreds of Maya villages and settlements in the Yucatan where people continue to speak their language and live the Maya way of life. Many people rely for food on corn, beans, and squash grown together in small plots or milpas. They live in tight-knit family compounds, often combinations of palapas and modern concrete buildings. Xoquén, a typical village, has more than its share of artisans. In the Toon family compound, Leonila and her daughter Mari do embroidery for ipils and other products. Leonila only speaks Mayan.
Pues tenemos desde buka año ya tenemos 13 tenemos que can chuyo kakahin chuyo wala ka balenting makina wa ka balenting chu mina chen watu siya chen tun tasak tene pico bo nup lanta bibeya utasa tuni nup lanta wa chuya anta kwama chuya anta ke kuya la tuni chuiksha pero mis cojo chambo tali chambarato. Entonces Mario leti dibujar tikte. Leti cache que dibujar sham, pero me ve ahora jukanga pues leti met que tiene tinchuik. Pues ve ahorita sa pues ujela ni le men cache tiene cacaji noche puro y pilco usata misma que han vestidos. Tiene leti tu mujer ni ya a que pues taco chene mina mishe y piles so. Pero ahorita pues yo se choco, tenía que mis maco cat chuy. Ahora me más sebo y el vestido, que pantalón, que vale. Mato no le biscun segere vaya no segere y pilo vaya no patamina o me mole halichenkingo no ne.
Leonila's son, Miguel, went to college and worked in Cancun, but decided to return to the village as a partner in a small ecotourism business. Miguel guides birdwatching tours and teaches local people to appreciate nature through his company, Choquén Birding Trail. To support Miguel's business, Leonila now stitches bird designs on clothing.
Y entonces también es importante para mí, por ejemplo, el tema natural, la conservación del medio ambiente, la naturaleza, los animales que son parte de nosotros.
Es un vídeo. Sí.
Y entonces al estar en contacto con la naturaleza aprendes, observas cómo hacían nuestros antepasados, ¿no? Nuestros antepasados aprendían de la naturaleza. Y entonces ahorita como que ese es el momento de volver como que a conectarte a... Y entonces si nosotros agarramos de repente, vamos a caminar en la naturaleza, como que te renuevas, o sea, como que todas esas malas energías ya la misma naturaleza como que te los agarra y ya queda allá donde en algún momento va a desaparecer, ¿no? O sea, quizás nuevas generaciones vengan y dicen, oye, pues no me interesa esto, voy a construir o hacer, no sé, construcciones.
Miguel promotes reforesting to regain the balance of nature and to provide food.
Okay, el árbol de Ramón, de hecho, esa es la semillita. Es uno de los árboles que se ha investigado mucho, que ayuda mucho a la prevención del calentamiento global. Las raíces guardan lo que es el carbono. El árbol de Ramón, sus raíces van en busca de agua profundamente, ¿no? O sea, por eso todo el año tiene hojas verdes. Y entonces nosotros hemos estado reforestando con esta planta, porque también todo el año en una temporada tienen muchos frutos. Al tener los frutos, café con el fruto, hacen galletas, pasteles, también para las gallinas, para el cochino, para las vacas, caballos. Y entonces nosotros como proyecto, como Choquén, y también aquí le tenemos dado el nombre como Vivero de Choquén. Y entonces a través de Choquén Birding tenemos como que un pequeño convenio para poder nosotros donar árboles a la comunidad, ¿no?
Some of the young people are learning ancient rituals from their grandparents.
Por eso se utilizó el agua bendita para bendecirlos, que fue con el que se bautizó a los que son los hijos de Dios, y se utiliza lo que es el copal, es una planta que es de aquí de la comunidad, que es donde se puede purificar todo el alma, que todo lo que es malas energías que se trae pues se queda en el lugar o que se aleje de todo esto y que los árboles ayuden para que puedan absorber todas esas energías.
In Choquén, as elsewhere in Mundo Maya, Christianity and traditional Maya religion are fused.
Se nota mucho, por ejemplo, en el centro de Choquén tenemos una iglesia muy católica y aquí en donde estamos es una iglesia donde la misma comunidad se identifican de sus orígenes como mayas. Nosotros vivimos acá y vamos entendiendo mucho el concepto, ¿no?, de la religión, del sincretismo que existe también aquí, ¿no? Por ejemplo, acá se hace ceremonias mayas donde utilizan los números 9 y 13 para que haya un equilibrio en la vida, en todo lo que se está haciendo.
In recent years, developers have been buying up land in the interior, and people from elsewhere in Mexico and foreigners have been buying houses there. The place seems to be on the cusp of an economic boom. Murem, Museo de Ropa Étnica de México, in Valladolid, collects and exhibits traditional Mexican clothing and has an extensive Maya collection.
Our mission is to interact with the people from the Mayan communities in a way that we can help them continue to preserve traditions into the future. We feel very strongly that the textile traditions, which are disappearing very quickly, are something very special and need to be preserved. And so however we can help someone who's an embroiderer or a weaver or whatever type of work that deals with these kinds of traditional textiles and the life that surrounds them, we are very interested in being able to assist in keeping it going.
One of Murem's programs is aimed at teaching local sewers how to make clothing and embroidery that will appeal to tourists.
We decided to do this ancestral course at the museum in Valladolid because we wanted to join together some ancestral stitches with contemporary products to give some of these local women an opportunity to offer modern, useful products, easily made with very little fabric, to tourists and people and modern travellers, really. I love doing the course, and the idea is really great, but I was just a little bit conflicted because we want to preserve these traditions and we love seeing the women around the town with their beautiful clothing, and it's all very traditional and it also has a great value, but at the same time we don't want to destroy their customs and traditions, but we want them to be able to access earning money from tourism with contemporary simple projects that they can just get a better income for themselves and their families.
The museum's gift shop features items made by local artisans.
Because we deal with so many artisans on a regional or local level, we are working directly with them to ensure that they have a place to sell their goods. The long-term benefit is that by using these stitches to make these products to sell to these people, including traditional pieces, that it will be a way of extending the tradition of embroidery, weaving, or whatever textile work in the region.
Okay, super. Algo diferente. Ajá, estamos yeah.
Maya people in the cities and villages have been organizing to control their own fate. Rather than being pushed aside by outsiders, they want to build businesses aimed at reaping benefits from the coming boom. Yashuna, near the famous archaeological site Chichen Itza, is one prominent example of the push to develop community tourism.
La comunidad de Yashuna es una comunidad maya que se dedica a diferentes trabajos, se dedica al trabajo de trabajar en la milpa, son agricultores, apicultores y pues es una comunidad que tiene alrededor de 750 habitantes. En estos últimos años pues también se dedican al trabajo de turismo comunitario. Pues mayormente entendemos que ellos vienen porque quieren conocer parte de nuestra cultura local. Entonces las actividades que nosotros hacemos con ellos son, por ejemplo, visitan el museo comunitario, el jardín botánico, el cenote y también visitan los talleres artesanales que son cuernos de toro, urdido de hamaca, artesanías de madera y en algunas ocasiones también piden visitar a las señoras que hacen bordados a mano.
Y es tu trabajo, esta cruz. Esta es el trabajo de usted.
Sí.
¿Y cómo se llama usted?
Me llamo Paulino Canul.
Don Paulino, ¿cuánto cuesta la cruz?
Y también hay otra organización importante que trabaja para promover la comunidad. Este es el parador turístico. Ellos ofrecen servicios de hospedaje que son como hoteles, son como es un parador turístico. Tienen servicios de hospedaje, comida, tienen baños y también trabaja con un grupo que ofrecen servicios de hospedaje que se les llama Mahaná, como prestacasas. Estas casas son como cuartos especiales para los visitantes, son casas que las familias no ocupan. También visitan casas de familias para ver una casa maya, cómo se prepara la comida, cómo se hacen las tortillas. Hacen recorridos en la comunidad, como por ejemplo salimos en bicicletas, platicamos acerca de cómo vive la comunidad, qué creencias tienen y también visitan la zona arqueológica.
The town even has a women's softball team, Las Amazonas, whose members wear ipils on the field.
Y entonces le pusieron Amazonas porque pues son amas de casa y zonas por la zona arqueológica. Cuando vamos a los partidos hay un montón de aficionados. Entonces nosotros hacemos lo que le dicen recolecta. Recolectamos como un poco de dinero y ese dinero se le entrega a la persona que pide el apoyo. Y es lo que hacemos y pues nos gusta hacerlo, ayudar a nuestra comunidad.
Tasik juntos tut untul chan chin chin bakal uchikul tenei hach yamech skit panchaten otzilil oktak balin waitech bosh hotel shikech ap atenshan machen tiolal ahatzil kalovil tak impushtal.
El modelo que se ha seguido en Yashuna con respecto al desarrollo creo que es el adecuado porque ellos han podido, la gente de la comunidad ha entendido que ellos pueden manejar sus recursos naturales y culturales y con base en eso también tienen un espíritu de la conservación de los mismos, es decir, los aprovechan económicamente pero al mismo tiempo los conservan. Pienso que sí es un modelo a seguir para otras comunidades, ya que por lo general todos los pueblos, todas las comunidades que hay alrededor del proyecto del Tren Maya
Over the years, many thousands of Maya have left their home villages in search of economic opportunity, heading elsewhere in Mexico or to the United States. Often, they have found challenges where they land.
In their home countries, Indigenous peoples face a number of challenges. Their lands are being threatened by extractive projects and energy projects, the creation of protected areas like national parks, and tourism ventures, including the Tren Maya project in the Yucatan. Another challenge includes poverty caused by structural racism that creates disparities, unequal access to health, education, housing, and employment, and that leads to involuntary migration. And then of course, climate change, gang violence, and conflict within their countries are further push factors. At the U.S.-Mexico border crossing, there's a fundamental lack of understanding of the specific needs and rights of Indigenous peoples. Many Indigenous migrants arriving from Central and South America are mistakenly identified as Hispanic or Latino and provided with Spanish interpreters. And this can happen because of their inability to communicate in English or Spanish, fear of discrimination, and also lack of birth registration and identity documents. Well, in terms of policy reform, what is needed is a human rights-based approach rather than a militarized response at the border. The U.S. should adopt policies to better identify Indigenous peoples at the border and address their specific needs and preferences by providing Indigenous language interpreters, social workers, and humanitarian aid in general. And there should be more Indigenous border and immigration officers. And the U.S. should end the immigration detention of children and prohibit the separation of children from their parents. They should investigate and where appropriate, prosecute allegations of violence by government officials and put in place measures to prevent discrimination and abuse of Indigenous peoples.
Si viene gente también que le quiere hacer daño a los Estados Unidos, no los van a realizar. Puedes escandalizarte con todos los que hay aquí. ¿Y más? Todos los reprimidos, suprimidos y agredidos. Pero una cosa es una gente que cometa un delito en los Estados Unidos y otra que venga con...
Tens of thousands of Yucatec Maya have migrated to the San Francisco Bay Area over the past few decades. They're lured by abundant restaurant and farm jobs and a ready-made network of fellow Yucatecos. One of the early resettlers was Tommy Bermejo. He arrived in 1958 through a U.S. guest worker program. He switched from farm labor to restaurant work, and in 1965 he opened Tommy's Mexican Restaurant in San Francisco with his wife Elmi. He helped many other Yucatecos establish themselves in the area.
At that time, not many Yucatecan people. Yeah, but now, oh my goodness, now it's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But you know, because you help this one and this one gonna help another one, then another one, and then it becomes bigger. Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law is a cousin. That's Tommy's cousin. That's how we meet Tommy. And Tommy said, "Come on, guys, let's go to California." That's how we decided to come this way.
A lot of people would come just to get some advice. And he also provided some tough love sometimes about making sure that not only were you making money, but making sure that you saved, that you sent money back to those family members who needed it. And one of the heartwarming stories was when my dad passed away. There was a gentleman that came here and he said that my dad helped encouraged him to open his own business, selling produce. And he says, you need to do this, you need to look for your family. And then he goes, and I'll be your first customer.
We got here in the United States, and we got a job working in the kitchen, me and my brother Felipe, and we used to talk Maya in the kitchen. And the guests, when they came, and they used to ask to the owner of the business, he used to ask why you have Chinese cooks in the back, and in an American restaurant, and then me and my brother, we're not Chinese, we are Mayan. That's the Mayan language we talk. It was beautiful to live like a Mayan. Yes, I used to live in the jungle with all the family, around maybe 50 members. For me to grow up like that, it was the best, because everything natural, you don't need money, everything is, you grow, you hand.
Y Arturo fue un gran amigo, fuimos grandes amigos en nuestra infancia. Es muy bonito, es mucha energía, mucha alegría, pero a la vez mucha pobreza. La parte más difícil que donde crecimos, primero por nuestros ancestros, nuestros padres, nuestros abuelos, pues no tenían ido a la escuela y se nos dificultaba a nosotros enfrentar la pobreza.
Coming out of the jungle and going to school, it was a big challenge, because in that time, you feel low, because that's how it's been treated. Rich people, and you're indigenous.
Now, as earlier, Yucatec people leave their homeland to escape poverty in the hopes of finding opportunities in the United States.
I went 2 years in the school, just only 2 years, no more. So I started working with my father, and in like maybe 12 years, 30 years old, I work in the field, hacha, machete, no chainsaw. There is hard. Here is not for me.
Many Yucatecos have come to San Francisco's Mission District, which has long been a magnet for Mexicans and now has a distinctly Maya flavor. For many, life in the United States is difficult. There's the language barrier. Some Maya immigrants can't read and write. The immigrants are often stuck in low-wage jobs. Undocumented people live in fear.
Uno piensa que porque se va a Estados Unidos es fácil. Y la mayoría de las veces, realmente, como somos nuevos soñadores de ir a Estados Unidos, no sabemos los riesgos que enfrenta uno. Así que llegué aquí sin saber dónde voy a ir, qué voy a hacer. El idioma, no sabía nada. Y es muy difícil para la gente. La comida, el dinero, las calles, todo aquí es difícil para mí. Todo es nuevo.
They have it in their mind. How about the money that I had to pay, that I owe in Mexico? How am I gonna do it? My family waiting for me, waiting for the money. That's when you see the depression there, and they start doing, drinking.
Some Maya immigrants end up homeless which is what happened to Luis Put's cousin, Luis Gongora Pat. One spring day in 2016, Luis was shot dead in the Mission District by police who claimed he was threatening them with a knife. Witnesses denied he drew the knife. Only one officer was disciplined for escalating the situation. Afterwards, people from the community protested, and artists painted a mural memorializing Luis in an alley that's lined with social commentary murals.
Y él solo estaba sentado en la 19 y la Shotwell, y la policía lo mató. La desgracia de los mayas, cuando son analfabetos y llegan en este país, no solo es un problema buscar dinero para venir, arriesgar la vida para venir, pero cuando llegan acá, arriesgar todo el sistema de aquí.
Asociación Mayab offers services to help immigrants.
The goal is to preserve our culture, help these people, especially with food, sometimes housing, sometimes like medical. That's what we're trying very hard.
Quise aprenderlo y hasta ahorita empecé desde cero y ahorita ya me sé algunos pasos. Entonces me alegro mucho porque he logrado conectar con mi papá. Hemos platicado, me platica de su infancia. Hasta a él lo veo moverse a veces que me da como mucha alegría que lo recuerde a su país.
Along the coast, there are many farms where Maya people work for low wages. Advocates are trying to help them start their own farming businesses.
Rancho Meritos is a program for farm workers to receive training and education on how to run a business in farming. Education about sustainable farming, healthy soils, irrigation systems, composting, the use of windbreaks. So everything, and as well as education on running the business. They are future farmers.
Arturo Mule settled along the coast, and after working in restaurants for years, he opened his own restaurant in the seaside town of Half Moon Bay.
The Maya people, both here in the United States and in Mexico, and to their wonderful cooking. Indeed.
The food is one of the most important things maybe in the Mayan culture. Yeah, the flavors, and there's a lot of people from the Yucatan. They look sometimes they look for Mayan food, and they have to go to the city, and some of them they don't know we are here, and then they come when they say, "Oh, I didn't know you guys here," and then I want to eat something from the Yucatan, like panuchos, salbutes, empanadas, or cochinita pibil, or something like that. So we use the achiote. It's a red condiment. You mix it up and then you rub it really well in the cochinita. You wrap it with the banana leaf, and then you cook it for 3 or 4 hours, and then it comes really good too. There's the cochinita pibil.
Wonderful. We will be back. We did.
Yeah, we'll be back next time we can.
I think the Mayan culture has always been survivals. You know, we have figured it out, and also coming from Yucatan, we've also sometimes felt that it was a little different than the rest of Mexico, but we are our own culture, we're very unique. And if you ask somebody from Yucatan, are you from Mexico? Usually the answer is, no, I'm from Yucatan, and it's a part of Mexico. So we see ourselves as a little bit the same, but yet apart or unique.
The Maya have shown incredible resilience for centuries. In fact, other Mexicans call them Yucatercos, slang for the stubborn people of Yucatan. Now, massive changes may come quickly. Will the Maya people and their culture persevere? Will they be able to adapt to a rapidly changing world without losing their inner Maya?
Maya winke tian tu almah tanile yanu kuchuluk inil u kuchul usutu kiltush ubeital umu kankunsal utukulile yola lumiatsil Maya winik alang yanu tane yanu kuchuluk inile tialka Maya winko ubing takanal unachtal tialka kaholtak yanu kuchuluk inilu tamakobe binu kanob utanob mayatan tumen lu Maya winke alan uyal matanile tu chibale bin kuchuluk inil ukabin tiak ahol biliokol kab.
Becerrero, becerrero, ¿dónde dejaste los piales? ¿Dónde dejaste los piales? Ay, ay, ay. En la puerta del chiquero, en la puerta